Well, good morning. It's good to be back with you again at Bible Study. My name is Kevin. I have the privilege of serving as lead clergy here at Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, very easy. All you need to do is visit the URL that's right up there, www.christstable.today. You can find out more about what we do among those who are disappointed, disillusioned, disconnected, discouraged, done with the church. If any of those D words describe you, then Christ Table may well be a place where you can find help and maybe even a home base for you as you navigate spiritual questions and try to figure out where you go from here. If you'd like more information about this study in particular, that is also super simple. All you need to do is visit the URL that's right down there in front of me, go.christstable.today/gameon. There, information about this study, how you can be more involved in this study. There's a PDF that will help you go more deeply into this study with study questions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There, if you'd like printed resources, we do have those free PDFs available. Have those free PDFs available in print that you can get a hard copy of those. They come as part of a spiritual resource box that we offer. You can take advantage of that there if you want, or just the free resources are there as well. We try to provide as many resources as we can for free because we know that most of the people who utilize Christ Table are in a place of need spiritually and usually have a low trust in anything with religious, anybody who has pastor or reverend attached to their name. And so we understand that. We just want to be a resource here for you on your spiritual journey. Today, we find ourselves in one of the best books for those who find themselves on a spiritual journey with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, the book of Ecclesiastes. In fact, if you have never read the book of Ecclesiastes, it is one of those books where if you're having doubts, if you're having questions, if all you know about church is the negative side of church and religion and faith, Ecclesiastes may well be a book that is designed just for you. It's a book for doubters. It's a book for skeptics. It's a book for those who have more questions than answers. And today we find ourselves in particular in one of what I think is the best verses in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12, though I got to admit all of the verses in Ecclesiastes are bangers, as they say in the UK. So this week we are looking at a different chess piece. We are in the middle of looking at the Queen. That is the chess piece for this week. Each and every week over the last 6 weeks, we've been looking at a different chess piece. We've looked at the pawn, we've looked at the rook, we've looked at the knight, we've looked at the bishop. Now we are looking at the queen, and next week we will finish things up by looking at the king. One of the things that we found out about the queen is that the queen is one of, or is, I think you could say, the most powerful piece on the chess board. She has the ability to cover more spaces on the board than any other space. And even though she did not start out as the most powerful piece on the chessboard, she became, over the years, the most powerful piece on the chessboard, even more important than the king. Now, if you lose the king, you cannot win the game of chess. You can lose the queen and still win the game of chess, but it is not going to be easy for you because she has far better mobility and strategic advantage than the king himself does. That being said, it does not mean that just a queen and a queen alone is going to be able to win you a game whenever it comes to the game of chess. The queen, even though she is the most powerful piece on her own, really requires a reliance on the other pieces on the board in order to be fully effective. And so that's what we're going to talk about today in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12, and then also a little bit about the game of chess whenever we review a little bit more of the strategy and the movements behind the queen chess piece. So, as I said, despite being the most powerful chess piece on the board, the queen works best whenever she is supported by other pieces. The queen, whenever she is being guarded by pawns, whenever she is being blocked and tackled in front of by the rook or by the bishop, whenever other pieces are strategically playing alongside the queen, her power goes to much greater lengths because she is protected. Whenever the queen, though, is unprotected by those other pieces, her power is far more in danger than if she is in a company of goodwill from players and pieces on her own team. An isolated queen, no matter how strong, often gets overwhelmed by coordinated opposition. And I don't think, right, I don't think it's a difficult jump for us to say that, just like in the game of chess, an isolated queen is easily overwhelmed and is not as strong as she could be in life as well, right? Whenever we are alone, we are more easily overwhelmed. We are not as strong whenever we are alone. And so whenever phone calls coming in, probably somebody offering me some sort of a loan on a spam phone call, because that's all the phone calls that actually was American Red Cross looking for blood, out for blood. Anyway, live here recording. Anyway, isolated queens, no matter how strong, often get overwhelmed by coordinated opposition. And I would say that isolated individuals, no matter how strong, often get overwhelmed by opposition as well. Maybe you can think back to times whenever you have found yourself in isolation and you understand that you were far weaker now looking back on those times and those moments because you were isolated, because you were alone. And maybe you can think back on times whenever you were surrounded by a band of brothers, a band of sisters, a good company of individuals who were surrounding you, who were protecting you, who were there for you. And you will remember probably that in those seasons, things went far easier for you. Even if the end result was still not great, you made it through in large part emotionally because you had yourself surrounded by people who cared for you, who loved you, who were helping you, and who were there in lockstep with you each and every step of the way. This is essentially what Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12 is saying whenever it says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, and a cord of three strands is not quickly broken. A reminder here that the more people that are a part of your journey, the more difficult it is for you to falter. If you're out there alone, fighting through the battles of life, you run a very high risk of stumbling, of suffering fatigue, of taking on some sort of a wound. Maybe it's a mortal wound that stops you dead in your tracks and wherever you're headed or what you're trying to do or accomplish. But if there are two of you fighting, you can defend yourselves and each other. But if there are three people is not easily broken. The more people you have alongside you, helping you, fighting you, the more you are in community, the easier life will be, whether you're in the middle of a fight or in the middle of a season of peace. The Bible always encourages us to do so in community, to not be a lone ranger. Faith, I don't believe, is ever intended to be a lone ranger pursuit. Even the strongest individuals need the support of community to thrive. And I think that this is something that oftentimes has gotten lost, especially within Christianity in America. America and the American ideal, is this great individualism rather than this reliance on community. America has, from its beginning, kind of built up this reliance on the individual and the power of the individual, the exceptional nature of the pioneer spirit being in somebody and what is able to be accomplished. But if you really look into that pioneer spirit and those pioneers, you will know that they were not alone in those wagon trains. They were not alone as they were crossing the rivers. They were not alone whenever they were in skirmishes with each other. They were not alone whenever they were living out on the prairie. And when they were alone in any of those circumstances, oftentimes the end results were detrimental, if not disastrous, in a way that it would not have been if they were not fully on their own. Even the strongest individuals need the support of community in order to thrive. So that's our study for today. I want to make sure, though, that before we go, we always try to put up a question from the study guide. Choose one of those questions. And today's question that I've chosen out, there are more in the study guide online that you can go and take a look at and dive deeper into this study. But today, the question that I pulled out is this one: what would change if you approached challenges as opportunities for collaboration rather than for solo achievement? What would change in your life? What would change in your business? What would change in your relationship? What would change in this thing that is in front of you if you approached challenges as opportunities for collaboration? Combining several of these pieces together, the rook and the queen. What would happen if you were seeing things in your life as an opportunity for collaboration rather than a solo achievement? That's the question for today, and I hope that you'll take a look at the rest of the questions that are in there in the study guide and take advantage of those. They're there for you. go.christstable.today/gameon. And until tomorrow, it's been good to be with you today.